once again the sub. And I've been given the task of reviewing Genesis and transitioning us into Exodus. And it is a large task. And in order to do this well, we really have to understand what is Genesis and what is Exodus. When we looked at Genesis, there's a family, right? There's Abraham. We start with, well, there's Noah, but then we start with Abraham, really. Abraham, his son Isaac, his son Jacob, and then his son Joseph. And for the Israelites, these were the patriarchs. And this encompasses just about the whole of Genesis, the story of this family. And what we need to do is we need to kind of take a bird's eye view of this and think of these not as four people, but in Genesis, God lays down for us really the principles of all human character and what God has promised to mankind. It's not just about four people. It's not just about having kids or the inability to have kids or having a ton of kids. All of this, these are the details. But within this, we see how God sees people. We see the flaws that are inherent in every man, in these men. We see the flaws in the families, and we see how God lays down the rules, the guidelines for interaction, what he says, what God is telling us about himself in Genesis. In the creation, why did he create man like this? Who was man that he created? What were the principles? And so we come to Genesis 15, and I'm going to start our reading from there. In Genesis 15, it says, after these things, the word of the Lord, if you want to turn with me, you can. If you don't have your Bible, that's fine. After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision, saying, do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your exceedingly great reward. I'm going to repeat that. After these things, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision, saying, do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your exceedingly great reward. Now, Abram's done a lot up to this. A lot has happened. He's already rescued Lot. He's already left his home and hearth for a land which he did not know. So he's already experienced a lot of God. But you come to the place where God says to him, do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your exceedingly great reward. But Abram said, Lord God, what will you give me, seeing I go childless, and the heir of my house is Eliezer of Damascus? So God says to him, don't be afraid. I am your reward. You're going to have the top of the universe as your reward. And I am going to protect your line. And what has Abram said? It doesn't mean much. I don't have kids. Isn't that interesting? What am I if I end with this generation? I don't have everything. Then Abram said, look, you have given me no offspring. Indeed, one born in my house is my heir. And behold, the word of the Lord came to him, saying, this one shall not be your heir, but one who will come from your own body shall be your heir. Then he brought him outside and said, look now toward heaven and count the stars if you are able to number them. And he said to him, so shall your descendants be. And he believed the Lord, and he counted to him for righteousness. This is the first promise and the main promise that God gives. That I know that's what you're worried about, Abram. You're worried about heritage. You're worried that it means nothing. I've shown you that I am the God of the universe. But what does that matter if there's no one to carry that on? There's no one to go forward carrying this on. And God says, look, you will have heirs. And not just one, you will have one. And he goes on in chapter 17 to talk about the promising. And who are your heirs? They're going to be more than the stars of the heaven, more than the sands of the sea. And there is just so much to say in those two things that alone, but he determines for Abraham the first thing that is necessary, which is you You believe, Abraham believed it was counted to him as righteousness. What does it mean to be righteous? And here is the first principle laid down for mankind. Believing leads to being right with God. Abraham now has acceptance and forgiveness before the Lord. That's a huge thing. That is the promise that makes us also the children of Abraham. Because he was the believer. He was the first person that God says this to. Because you believe, it is accounted to you as righteousness. And we go forward. That's verse 6, okay? We're going to go forward, and something a little bit disturbing happens. Now Abraham knows he's going to have descendants that are countless, as numerous as the stars in the heaven, as numerous as the sand on the seashore. And these descendants, we learn in the New Testament, in Romans 9, that this is us. We are the descendants by faith. He was the father of faith, and all those came after him in walking along the same path. We are the children of faith. Because we believe, that is how we are justified, by faith. Because he believed, it was accounted to him as righteousness. So what happens to his heirs? Because remember, Abraham's main deal was, I have no heirs. Verse 12, now when the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell upon Abram, and behold, horror and great darkness fell upon him. He falls into a terror. Then he, that is God, said to Abram, know certainly that your descendants will be strangers in the land that is not theirs, and will serve them, and they will afflict them 400 years. So he gives Abraham this prophecy that says, yes, you're going to have heirs. And now he's talking about physical heirs. But guess what happens to them? They will be enslaved in a land for 400 years. That brings us right into Exodus, right? Between Genesis, the end, when Jacob goes down to Egypt, and first chapter of Exodus, there are 400 years of enslavement. What happened? What happened to God's people during that time? These were the chosen people, were they not? And what happens to this promise that God gives to Abraham? Well, let's start with, how did they get into Egypt? Here Abraham was already dwelling in Canaan, the promised land. He conquers the 5 kings. He goes out, he redeems his nephew Lot. Everything is good at this point. How did they go from Abraham's children, the children of the promise, to being enslaved? And let's start reading with Genesis 47, I believe. Let's look at Genesis 47. Well, before that, we see Joseph, which I think we talked about just last week, right? Joseph, he was sold out by his brothers, lands himself as a servant in Potiphar's house because he was able to interpret dreams for Pharaoh. He rises to a level of authority. Now, meanwhile, there's famine in the land of Israel. Okay, there is famine in the land. It was not Israel, it was Canaan back then. Where Jacob is, there's a famine. There's no food to be had. They have no sustenance. So Jacob, and as we know of Jacob, he's a wily one, he is. He figures out a solution here. He says, we're going to go down into Egypt to get food there. We are going, no mention of God here, but he says, we are going to go down. And the Lord tells him, he says, go to Egypt. Okay, so we come to 46 actually. So Israel took his journey with all that he had and came to Beersheba and offered sacrifices to God his father Isaac. And God spoke to Israel. This was when he was already, okay, he had already sent his sons a few times to go buy food there. He's buying food from there, and then he says, and God says to him, Jacob, Jacob. Have you never, I think we covered this before. God always calls someone twice. I don't know what that is. He always, Samuel, Samuel. Abraham, Abraham. Jacob, Jacob. Gets your attention, right? Jacob, Jacob. Make sure, you make sure you're paying attention. And Jacob says, here I am. And you notice none of these people ever says, who is it? They know who it is. Here I am. So he said, I am God, the God of your father. Do not fear to go down to Egypt, for I will make of you a great nation. I will go down with you to Egypt, and I will also surely bring you up again. And Joseph put his hand on his eyes. This was before, right, Jacob had seen Joseph? Am I wrong? He had not laid eyes on Joseph yet, right? And so Jacob arose from Beersheba, and the sons of Israel carried their father Jacob. I kind of like that. The sons of Israel carried their father Jacob. And so he's a little older now. Okay, his 12 sons, they're going to hoist him up and they're going to carry him. The little ones and the wives in the carts which Pharaoh had sent to carry him. They took their livestock and their goods, which they had acquired in the land of Canaan, and went to Egypt, and Jacob and all his descendants with him, his sons and his sons' sons, his daughters and his sons' daughters. So he and his grandchildren, 3 generations, and all his descendants, he brought with him to Egypt. Okay, now they're in Egypt. Why are they in Egypt? Quick review. Why are they in Egypt?
Food.
Food. Exactly. They need food. So they go down to Egypt because they need food. All right. This is the last one here. Does God really bring Jacob up from Egypt? Well, he promised him he would, but does it happen? No? Yes. Well, why do you say yes? Exactly. Let's turn to 49. Then he charged them and said to them, I am to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite. In the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field of Ephron of Hittite as a possession for a burial place. There they buried Abraham and Sarah's wife, and there they buried Isaac and Rebekah his wife, and there I buried Leah. The field and the cave that is there were purchased from the sons of Heth. And when Jacob had finished commanding his sons, he drew up his feet into his bed and breathed his last and was gathered to his people. That's a very good way to go. He tells his sons, this is what you're to do for me. And then he is gathered to his people. That is the last thing that is recorded, that he is gathered to his people. So yes, Joseph then takes leave of Pharaoh, they take Jacob, and they bury him in Canaan. This tells us, when we look at the promise that God gave them, this tells us a few things. First of all, is God looking at our physical life as the end-all be-all? No. He promises Jacob, you will return to Canaan. And indeed, Jacob returns to Canaan. He is gathered to his people. He is now with his people. There is a life that comes after. Our life extends, our spirits and souls extends beyond what we can see physically. What is it? But in this time, we have a body. This body needs food. And we go down to Egypt, right? They went down to Egypt. What about Joseph? Joseph, now when Joseph dies, what does he say? What is his command? And what does he say? Let's come to the end of chapter 50. So Joseph dwelt in Egypt, he and his father's household. And Joseph lived 110 years. Joseph saw Ephraim's children to the 3rd generation, which children of Manasseh, the son of Manasseh, were also brought up on Joseph's knees. And Joseph said to his brethren, I am dying, but God will surely visit you and bring you out of this land to the land of which he swore to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. And Joseph took an oath from the children of Israel, saying, God will surely visit you, and you shall, what? You shall carry up my bones from here. Do not bury me in this place. This is not my place. You shall carry up my bones from here. So Joseph died being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. We're not going to read the passage. Indeed, when they leave Egypt, 400 years later, they finally leave Egypt. Guess what they take with them? Joseph's bones. Because he had that desire in his heart. And he had that understanding that this is not the end for me, and I will not be buried in this place. I will rise. I will rise. I don't want my bones to be left here. There is a future for me, and it is not here in Egypt. I am not to be. And so he understood with clarity that there is a hereafter. There is more to life than food. There is more to life than Egypt. And this is where we pick up in Exodus. What happens? Now, we're going to pick up in Exodus 1:8 over to you. Now there arose a new king over Egypt, and who did not know Joseph? Well, actually, let's start with 7. But the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly, multiplied and grew exceedingly mighty, and the land was full of them. Now there arose a new king over Egypt, who did not know Joseph. And the people... And he said to his people, look, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Are more and mightier than we. Come, let us deal shrewdly with them, lest they multiply. And it happened in the event of war that they also joined our enemies and fight against us, and so we go out of the land. At the time of Joseph, I'm sure they had already multiplied. They were already quite a large clan. 400 years later, this clan just keeps growing. They're going to be even larger, all right? Therefore, they sent taskmasters over them to afflict them with the burdens they built for Pharaoh's supply cities, Pithom and Ramses. I'm going to end our reading temporarily for here. This is the background. 400 years later, they're doing a little more than just gaining food in Egypt, right? They've established themselves as a community there. They are settled there. They're actually, before this year, before this time, when they were abused, the start of the real abuse. They had been, I guess, doing well in Egypt, right? This is where we leave off from our Bible reading. And this is where we need to understand, what is Exodus? Genesis was principles for who we are. Exodus is the story of the fall and the redemption of man. Somewhere along those 400 years, I'm going to think that maybe it was in year 2 or 3, okay? And it continues and evolves and grows over a span of 400 years. They became Egyptians. Even when we look at when Joseph goes down to bury Jacob, and you go back and read in chapter 47, the Canaanites, and when they looked at this huge band, and there's Egyptians traveling with them, you know, because this is the rule of the land, right? Going down to bury his father. Their comment is not, wow, Abraham and his people are back. Their comment was, wow, there's a great mourning among the Egyptians. A great mourning among the Egyptians. There's an identity there. They're already being identified right when Jacob is buried as Egyptians. Brothers and sisters, we in Philippians, it tells us we are citizens of a heavenly kingdom. Jacob understood that he was to be in Egypt temporarily. Joseph understood he was there temporarily. This was not his home. As we, as Christians, traverse our life, we're in Egypt. And it is for the purpose of sustenance, but what have we made it? And that is a challenge that we are faced with today. What have we made of this world? Are we likewise? And I'm going to say the answer is probably resounding, overwhelmingly, yes. Are we likewise? How we become enslaved? And my hope today really is that the Lord opens our eyes to see that there is more. There is more than what Egypt can offer to us. There is more than building storehouses for Ramses. All the work that we do, the things that we are so enthralled with, and the word enthralled is funny because it means like, wow, you think it's all that. But thrall means to be enslaved. We are enthralled with something. We are enslaved by the thing. And no matter what age we are, from birth, we start defining ourselves by certain things that are Egyptian, no? From a very young age. You know, when the question, you know, in first grade, second grade, that comes up a lot is, what are you going to be when you get older? Or, you know, when you introduce yourself, you say, I'm a doctor, I'm a teacher, I'm a this, I'm a that. Does that really define you? Your role in Egypt, that's going to be what defines you? The Lord wants higher things for you. Yet we say, you know, I work with high school students who, when I ask them about college, what they tell me is their GPA. And they tell me what college they're going to. It defines them. Numbers define them. Grades, the first 5 letters of the alphabet define them. It is a very pitiful existence. They will very smoothly transition into a life where they're defined by their role, by how much money they make, by a certain lifestyle they live. I have friends who they live for lifestyle. They have checked off, you know, they've seen, they've eaten at, what is it? There's a movie about this, the sushi in Japan. Jiro loves, they've eaten there, they checked it off. They've been to the pyramids, they checked it off. I had a friend who just told me, you know, the shit caviar from Petra in Israel, it's a thing, okay? Caviar from the Volta River, it's a thing, apparently. You know, and they check, and that is how they define themselves. Some of us define ourselves by the clothes we wear, by things that can't even last 4 or 5 years, right? It's gonna wear out, I promise you. I don't care where it's made, it's gonna wear out. Some of us define ourselves by weight. Some of us define ourselves by muscles. By how much we can bench. Some of us define ourselves by salary. These are the measures of Egypt. These are the measures of Egypt. And the Lord today calls us to look beyond that. Because where does that end? And that is why we need redemption, because we live as fallen people in a fallen world. This is where redemption comes in. We come into Egypt and we're like, wow. And even I think if you go to Egypt now, I hear it's like, wow. The culture here, wow, you know, there's a lot of wow. So I recently spent total of, I think, I counted up 12 days. 12 the last 16 days. I spent in a hotel. Not bad hotel rooms. I mean, they were pretty nice hotel rooms, actually. And as nice as the hotel, I mean, there was one where, like, behind the headboard, there was, like, a white noise machine. I personally am not a fan of white noise. I like utter silence. But there's a white noise machine, so you don't hear what's outside, right? And this was, like, it was near an airport, so they don't, you know, so you don't have to hear the airport, right? The hotel room. Eating some very good food. You know, we were in Boston, had lobster on the East Coast. I'm going to say there's no place like home. Every single day that I'm in a hotel room, I miss my own room, my own bed a little more, my own home a little more. You know, for anyone who's traveled extensively, I'm going to bet that you find it to be the same. No matter how nice it is, it's just not home. living at a, and I'm traveling light, I'm living on a suitcase, I'm making do, right? Sometimes there's not exactly the thing you want as you would want it at home, but that's fine, And there's a lot of benefits in a hotel room. Someone cleans your room every day. You get fresh towels every day, should you desire to have fresh towels. You have water bottles placed at your head. There's nice things about it, but it's not home, because I identify with home. If I go into a hotel room, okay, now the bed was like maybe, I don't know, it was a little bit close to the wall. I don't prefer that. It's, the curtains are not quite the way I want. The orientation is not quite the way I would envision. I'm in this hotel room. I'm in each hotel for 3 nights. You think I'm going to make the trouble to go and rearrange this room? Am I going to buy a new bedspread? Am I going to complain about the colors in the room? Maybe, but am I going to do anything about it? Not really. Not really, right? Let's look at how Jacob describes his life, and we'll go back to look at Abraham. Jacob in Genesis chapter 47, he meets Pharaoh, who is, by all means, probably the most powerful man on earth at that time in his region, at least, right? He's done great things, Pharaoh has. In Genesis 47, Jacob is now super old. And he comes and he blesses Pharaoh. Who's greater in this situation? Jacob. He blesses Pharaoh, and he says to Pharaoh in 47 verse 9, "The days of the years of my pilgrimage are 100 years. Few and evil have been the days of the years of my life. They have not attained the days of the years of life of my fathers in the days of their pilgrimage." How does Jacob describe his life? Jacob, by all means, has a lot. We know that children are important. He has a lot of kids. He has livestock. By all means, he's a wealthy man, right? But how does he describe himself? He's a pilgrim. He's like, I don't belong here. And my life, he's 130 years old. He says, my life has been short and evil. What is he looking at when he says that? All the times he's been struggling for himself, all the times he's been away from God. It's been short and evil. My life is not a long life. He sees this in retrospect, in hindsight. What is the key to not being enthralled or enslaved with Egypt? Listen to Hebrew 11. And let's look at these different people. Hebrew 11, verse 17. Come back to the Bible. Verse 17, by faith, Abraham, when he was tested, offered up Isaac, and he would receive the promises offered up his only son, of whom it was said, in Isaac your seed shall be called. I'm going to skip down. By faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning things to come. By faith. I'm going to go back up to 16. But now they desire better, that is a heavenly country. Therefore God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. By faith, Abraham, when he was tested, offered up Isaac. And he who had received the promises offered up his only begotten son. And of whom it was said, in Isaac your seed shall be called. Concluding that God was able to raise him up even from the dead, from whom he also received him in a figurative sense. By faith, Isaac blessed Jacob and Esau concerning things to come. By faith, Jacob, when he was dying, blessed each of the sons of Joseph in worship, leaning on the top of his staff. By faith, Joseph, when he was dying, made mention of the departure of the children of Israel, and gave instruction concerning his bones. What of the patriarchs? They knew there was something better to come. and they believed it. Remember what was the first promise to Abraham? That because he believed, therefore he was reckoned as righteous. They believed and they lived that out. They believed that there was something better to come. We are not going about entrenching ourselves and, as a conclusion, being enslaved to the things of Egypt. And what does it mean to be enslaved? You can't say no. You cannot say no. Some people have lofty things that I think they're enslaved with. Their work goals, their houses, their travels. Me, I just want to wake up in the morning, read my Bible, look up, and hit my phone first. It's hard to say no. That's slavery. You can't say no. In the Bible, in the morning, I would like to get up in the morning and read my Bible first, pray first. But my mind is enslaved. It goes to my phone first. I want to check the weather. And it's not about, I understand, it's not about checking the weather. I have to make a hard left turn to get away from that. Because the natural thing to do is to reach for the phone and check the weather. It's a weird thing, But that is slavery. What are our minds set upon? If whatever it naturally tends to go to now, whatever that is not of God. Whatever is not of God. Let's look at Philippians. I know I'm flipping all through the Bible today. Philippians 3. Philippians 3:17. Brethren, join in following my example. Note those who so walk as you have us for a pattern. For many walk of whom I have told you often, and now turn even weeping that they are the enemies of the cross of Christ. Who is the enemy of the cross of Christ? Whose end is destruction, whose God is their belly, whose glory is their shame, who set their mind on earthly things. Who set their mind on earthly things. My goal is that I'm going to make this hotel room nice for the next 3 days. I'm going to jazz it up. I'm going to bring some sparkle to this hotel room. No. Abraham, he lived in tents all his life. He set no room. He was the wealthiest man around. He could gather 300 people and go defeat kings. He could go ransom people. His mind was not set on those things. His mind was not set on those things. For our citizenship is in heaven, from which we also eagerly wait for the Savior, the Lord Jesus Christ, who will transform our lowly body, that it may be conformed to his glorious body, according to the working by which he is able even to subdue all things to himself. Therefore, my beloved and longed for, brethren, my joy and my crown. So stand fast in the Lord, brethren. Stand fast in the Lord. What does it mean to stand fast in the Lord? How do we get out of this enslavement in Egypt? Stand fast in the Lord. He doesn't say go and attack the enemy. I learned something on this trip to the East Coast with the degree that I thought was, it was intriguing to me. In the battle, in the Civil War, okay, Robert E. Lee, the general of the Confederate Army, every time he attacked, guess what happened? He lost. He lost severely. Every time he just held his ground, he won. At Gettysburg, I learned this at Gettysburg. There was an author that was signing books, and I asked him some questions. He said, at Gettysburg, General Meade, who's in charge of the Union forces, the reason he wins, because he just lays low, waits for the South to be depleted of their cannonballs, waits for their attack. At Gettysburg, Lee gets aggressive. He gets greedy. He thinks, I can do this. And he spreads out his line far too thin. Anyways, he goes on the attack. And it is a tragic loss. There was a lesson to be learned here. I go back to one of my favorite battles in history, Thermopylae, the Hot Gates. 300 Greeks against tens of thousands of Persians. They just hold their ground. Just stand fast. Hold on to what you believe in for your whole life. We're not going out there to be against someone, to attack them. We are standing fast. Stand and don't fall. In Isaiah chapter 31. What is it that we are holding on to? Isaiah 31. Woe to those who go down to Egypt for help and rely on horses, who trust in chariots because they are many, and in horsemen because they are very strong, but who do not look to the Holy One of Israel, nor seek the Lord, nor seek the Lord. The Lord does send us into Egypt. He provides. Egypt is a channel through which He provides for us. It is food, is it not? But is that whom we rely on? Is that who we define ourselves by? Unfortunately, all too often, and as we see in the history of the Israelites, that's what it becomes. Egypt becomes our master. Egypt becomes our God. And the trick is, not the trick, but the skill, the relationship we are building. This morning Jonathan was just saying, it's not a religion, it's a relationship. And there's so much truth in that. Once we understand, there's a relationship here. There's a relationship here. Sure, I pay my bills. I do what I ought to do. If we look at, go back to Hebrews, at Moses, the last example, what set him apart? By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hidden 3 months by his parents because they saw he was a beautiful child, and they were not afraid of the king's command. By faith, Moses, when he became of age, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the passing pleasures of sin, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt. For he looked to the reward. Again, what are our minds and our hearts set on? He looked to that reward. By faith, he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. He endured as seeing him who is invisible. Today, what are eyes set upon? What are our eyes set upon? Philippians tells us, do not set our minds on earthly things. Colossians, which I think we read it not too long ago. If you're still following the reading, congratulations, if you are. Colossians addresses the same thing. If then you were raised with Christ, chapter 3, seek those things which are above, where Christ is, sitting at the right hand of God. Set your mind on the things above, not on the things on earth. It is not so much of tearing yourself from the things of this earth. It is, you can't look at 5 things at once. God gave us this kind of vision for a reason, right? We don't have eyes in the back of our heads. We can only turn our necks so far. We are to set our hearts and our minds on things that are above. And I would readily say, for myself, too much of the world occupies my heart. Too much of Egypt occupies my mind. I like to have fun. I look forward to having fun. I plan on having fun. You know what I mean? My entertainment, my, traveling, my vacation, I work towards it. And then I become enslaved towards it. That's my own personal weakness, right? I work towards that and I become enslaved to it. Does that make sense? You guys hear what I'm saying? It's what we're working towards. It's what our goals are. And those are my goals. I like food. I'm always planning a meal. On this trip I was on the East Coast with 8th graders, like at breakfast, I'm planning lunch already. What are we going to eat? Right after lunch, I'm looking at the teacher or the parent next to me, we're going to have dinner. And it's what I'm going to miss a lot of the stuff in between because my goal. It seems so banal when I talk about it. It seems so crass, It's like, we're going to have dinner. That's all I'm thinking about all day. But it's the truth of the matter for who I am. Some people have longer range plans. But yet, you know what? At the end of Monopoly, as we all know, you put all that money back in the box. You don't take any of it. You can't spend it after the game is over. No one cares who won. You know, it's green and yellow and pink money. What are you going to do with it? And I think more than one historian, more than one Christian or non-Christian has commented on this. You can't take it with you. But then if we just say you can't take it with you, short your goals, that's a sad way to live too, is it not? God is spreading out our vision to see what is in the future for us. And this, the song we sang this morning, "Be thou my vision, riches I heed not of man's empty praise. Be thou mine inheritance, now and always, now and always." And God is calling us to say, look, come away from the game, come away from playing in the mud all day. I can give you something that's real, something that's new, something that'll last forever. All too often I say, no thank you, I gotta check the weather. Yeah. And that is our daily challenge. How to, just easily turning our minds to set our things on things. I'm going to close there because I've gone over time. And we're going to continue with the Lord's Supper. And Peter's going to come up and lead us with that. And let us give our praise to the Lord for giving us more, for setting us free, from that bondage, for providing us that reward that is eternal.